Hey guys, Burp here. So today we're having another cube defense video explaining my experience trying hard game mode. And today it's Deep Void instead of the Winter Trials. But yeah, I triumphed it with my friend Tom, and I'll be telling you about how we did it. So without any further ado, even though let's get into what Deep Void actually is. Deep Void isn't actually the name of this game mode. In fact, there really isn't a name for it. Well, the badge is called Deep Nightmares, and the game mode just says Nightmare. The map is called Into the Deep Void, which is where the name that most people use originates. And Nightmare is actually the game mode you have to beat to access Deep Void, and not in the way you'd think. Beating Nightmare gives you 1 or 2 Void Seals, depending on if you did Survival or Cupocalypse. Then when you join Deep Void, it takes one of these. You have to have one to be able to play, so every time you lose, you have to go back and beat Nightmare again. And trust me, you will die a lot. But with that out of the way, onto the round itself. Deep Void does allow 6 players, but we did with 5 because it's easier due to HP scaling, being able to make enemies way more powerful than they usually are. So start off with one guy getting 2 Paragon Blade Spinners while everyone else sets up orbital satellites. Then we see Lord Volcanol talking. This is actually the only Lord to have dialogue, as far as I know. And he says that he's going to spice things up. And as he then proceeds to rob Tom of 90% of his money, thankfully he had just bought an upgrade, so he didn't have that much money, and he did it again. So yeah, the special effects from Winter Trials and Trials of Uso are here. And as per usual, they can help us or hurt us. So the Void can give us money, or it can take our money. It can heal cubes, or it can hurt them, etc., etc. We get our satellites to tier 3, then we get some more, just like in Winter Trials. As well, I set up an enhancer for our orbital satellites, as the Void casually spawns an 800 HP hidden enemy. Right. Then we get nearly game-ending RNG. The Void stuns all of our towers for 6 seconds. It made it seem inconsequential. This is almost deadly, because there are a crap ton of fast enemies right now, and there's vital time that we don't have to attack them. Thankfully, it ends up okay. We barely end up killing them. And then we have another deadly effect of the Void. It can consume towers. Particularly, it consumes 2 random towers whenever that effect is triggered. It can be very rough in late game, especially when you have a lot of temples around, and if it consumes a temple, you then have to replace it, and also replace your sacrifice. But enough about talking about the Void effects. How about what's going on with the enemies? Oh, and we are almost dead to the wizard enemies that drain your HP. Well, to counteract this, we get down a bunch of campfires, which give us extra HP at the end of the waves, and it worked out for us. Then we have the Zymod show up, which is like the Void version of the Raisin from Winter Trials, which is going to call it. Eventually kill it with the help of orbital cannons and an MK2. And after I set up some orbital cannons, I go to get my Sun Temples, which, because I was behind on economy because I set up the enhancer, I ended up taking a while to set them up. And our next boss, Gloop, appeared. A silly little goober that is based on Glort from Chaos. He has 2 heals and a speed up, but he's no real threat. I continue up setting up my temples, end up having to sacrifice some of my orbital satellites because of the spot, and I just replace them afterwards. Then we have Void Arc Wizard Schlapknop, a boss that, along with Gloop, shows up rather commonly. So we get a bit additional defenses to counteract this. I also and we can use Paragons, so I get tier 6 tombs. The Void also summons Gloop, which ends up with 3 Gloops being on the board at the same time. Terrifying, I know. But what's actually more terrifying is that I accidentally saw my Sun Temple that I used that absorbed the OSs, so I have to again place my temple and then replace the OSs. And then Tom starts placing stars in my OS spots. Thankfully, because we're on a call, I can tell him to sell them. I set up some Paragon missile launchers, and then the Void King shows up. This is the first boss where we have to run over to it and place funny lord guys and beam him. Basically, the Lord Zavusa tower can lock onto enemies, and once that happens, there's no getting it to lock off unless you stun it. Or until the enemy dies. That works too, I guess. And it gradually increases damage while it's locked on. And we also have the Sangreor? I have no clue how to pronounce that. Anyways, we also have the Revived Dark Wizard, which both of them fall to Lords, along with the rest of our defenses. At this point, we had stacked defenses. I mean, pretty much all of us were at placement limits, so we had all of our temples, MK2s, which all of our temples were at max sacrifice, and we just had a bunch of heavy damage. And after another Void King, the final boss of Nightmare shows up just casually on wave 37. And we kill it pretty casually. This is when I noticed the Valkyrie Deadeyes. These killed us on our last attempt because there's a boss next to it with a crap ton of HP that also has these as backup enemies. I mean, I guess 100,000 HP backup enemies could be pretty rough. Speaking of that boss, the Anomaly Devastator. We need to be on the lookout for it to be able to lord it as soon as possible, because this thing is fast. I end up not actually seeing it immediately, so I have to get my lords a bit further down the track. And we just have to sit and wait and hope that we don't die. And we end up making it out safely. And because of this, me and Tom are very happy, because this means we had actual progress, and we're hoping that Lord Volcanol wouldn't be that bad. Speaking of Lord Volcanol, he says he's going to come fight us himself, but before he does that, he sends 2 bosses to take us down. Those 2 bosses would be the Void Prince, which is a cube on the back of a Zymod with a somewhat large sword, and then the Corrupt Zymod, our first boss with over 1 million HP. The Void Prince actually has 1 million HP if you play with 6 players, but that's relevant. And we got to see what will happen to Volcanol, a bit of a preview. But Volcanol still won't be going down without a fight. Once he spawns, he only has 300,000 HP, which seems kind of wimpy, but then when he drops below 100,000, yeah, now he has over 1 million HP. Though, as we saw before, that while it does take us a bit to kill, it's not that big of an issue. When he does this transition, he also hints at his next move, which is the actual big problem. This. Yeah, that's a bit rough, isn't it? We quickly place down lords to be able to lock onto him as soon as possible and build up their damage, as well as getting MK2, since it has very similar DPS to max gain Sun Temple, while being cheaper because you don't have to get sacrifice. But after that point, we are pretty poor, considering how we just got 2 very expensive towers. I should have get Paragon Missile down, but I don't have enough for the upgrade. But despite that, we were able to do enough damage to be able to kill Lord Volcanol. That 6th level up was sick, by the way, as we finally get our win. We celebrate our rewards of 4k gold, 5k experience, and most importantly, the Void Rift Tower, which is basically the best single target tower in the game. And it also buffs Lord Towers. Yeah, that's pretty good, I think. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, be good. Burb out.